Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the Brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants.
Welcome back to the Fort Worth 148 Masonic Podcast. My name is Eddie Kirkendall. I'm past master and chaplain at Fort Worth 148.
I am Brandy Patton, current Worshipful Master of Fort Worth 148.
I'm Cody Koch, the current Senior Warden of Fort Worth Lodge number 148.
Sean DeBon, immediate past master of Fort Worth 148.
We're really testing out our editing skills today.
Yeah. For those of you who might not know, I am recovering from a flu. And so periodically I have these terrible coughing fits that I can't control. But I am taking a chance and being on a podcast today to see if we can edit out all of the coughs and sniffles that I'm dealing with.
Definitely not COVID.
Lodge is probably sick right now.
So you've been tested negative, right?
I have.
Okay.
Sir coughs a lot.
I have the
Definitely.
vaccine, so I'm totally fine.
I've been vaccinated as well.
I caught it.
against
I caught it
something.
twice after, but I have the vaccine, so I'm totally fine.
Oh, but
So-
you kept out. Did you get the boosters?
Oh hell no!
Boosters for
Those are the ones that have brain
5.
control drugs in them.
Brain control
That was
drugs.
the 5G.
That's right.
Yeah, it was the 5G activated serum. So
Speaking of 5G, I think I might have found the stash.
Your phone?
No, it didn't change. I was
No crap.
hopeful. Anyways, sorry. Let's move on.
Well, gentlemen, we have successfully gotten through the new year, and we are post grand communication, and we had our grand communication episode, which we had a great time recording there on the site. So, what are some things that, in retrospect, that we enjoyed about this year's Grand Lodge? Now that we've got a little bit of time and a little bit of distance between us and the grand communication and any drama or controversies that might have been stirred up at the time. What were our take homes about grand communication this year? We'll start on my left with Cody.
Well, I think the thing that I enjoyed the most about Grand Lodge this year is the fact that I actually spent most of my time at the 148 house instead of going different places. So this year's Grand Lodge was pretty low key, and I enjoyed it because I had a chance to really get a chance to talk to my brothers and things like that. So I enjoyed that. I think the thing that I got out of Grand Lodge, the actual sessions in that this year, was that it didn't really seem like there was a lot of stuff that was controversial that came up. There were some things that I thought were going to be a little bit more controversial than they actually kind of came out to be. So that was good. And there did seem to be a lot more lodges there than I thought that there were going to be. So that's a good thing. So it went smooth, and I'm happy with how it turned out.
I was, so mine was three things, really. First, and I think we're all going to have the answer of the 148 house. We got new digs this year for our house. It worked out fantastically. So hopefully we can keep that going forward. The second thing, to tie on to what Cody said, is the lack of controversy, even though it kind of seemed like there was going to be, and that was good. That was a positive thing. And then the third thing for me is I was super concerned that when we did have controversy a couple of years ago, that we were able to use that to establish a momentum of attendance and participation within the Brotherhood from around the state. And I was concerned that that was going to die after the controversy cooled down, that the attendance and the participation would go down. But it didn't really seem like that had happened too much. I think that we still had really good attendance at Grand Lodge, still had everybody engaged. And if there's anything that you can take from controversy is, to make it better, is you use it as a tool to generate participation and get everybody involved. And I think that was good.
I guess I'm next for doing that circle. The lack of controversy was amazing. Really, the only thing that was kind of controversial was the Grand South election, and it surprisingly went off without a hitch. Who I thought would win didn't win, but I'm happy with who did. The 148 house kind of echoed on what Cody said. it was way more low key. I was there just to vote this year because I have 3 votes. I had to vote. So I just stayed at the house, thinking with the POR once, did the pub crawl, but actually went, 3 stops ahead of everybody. So we didn't see them. But we hit a couple of spots. But yeah, we got closer to our brothers, which is the whole point. We did have a couple of dignitaries come to the house that found us somehow. I'm not going to name them. Probably better not to have witnesses and evidence.
Right.
But yeah, that's it.
I would echo everything that was that has been said thus far. I would also add to Sean's point that while I think that turnout has been elevated over the first couple of Grand Lodges that I ever attended, there was a lot of people in the auditorium. I still find it remarkably shocking how few Masons participate in the voting process that determines the things that we do as an organization. I think we did the numbers just kind of on the back of a napkin that all of the resolutions and everything that we vote on is being determined by about 0.1%. Or it's like a ridiculously small number of people.
I think we even said it was like 1%.
Yeah, it was like
Something
1% of Masons, voting eligible Masons in the state of Texas, make all of the decisions at Grand Communication. And I think that that's kind of shocking in some ways, considering the amount of Masons that we have that could be participating in voting.
I think that's highlighted too, because we are somewhat lucky here. Well, from our perspective, I would say we're somewhat lucky in our jurisdiction because past masters get a vote. There's a significant number, if not the majority of jurisdictions where past masters don't get a Grand Lodge vote. Just the lodges do. Right. And so to think that we have that ability and capability as past masters and people are not using it, it's like when you see the numbers for U.S. midterm elections, the turnout, you're like, whew. Some jurisdictions have 20 people to vote on midterm elections. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, and what you were talking about there, Sean, about the fact that past masters have the ability to vote and they don't. I can hear people that are either listening to this or eventually are going to listen to it go, well, I can't afford to be down there for a couple of days because I have to have a hotel room and things like that. And we were discussing this beforehand, but we do know of a certain number of lodges that have actually started to do the same thing that 148 is doing, and that is that all of their voting members are kind of getting together and finding Airbnb places to stay, and they're using it as an opportunity for fellowship and things like that. So if your lodge has never discussed that, this is a good time for you to start discussing in, for Grand Lodge in 2027. Maybe that's something that your lodge might consider doing.
Well, I would also add that I know that one of the brothers in Arlington recently posted some demographic data about, or some numeric data about the Grand Communication and the lodges that there were no representation on those lodges. And he pointed out, I think, I could be wrong, I don't have the post right in front of me, but he pointed out that many of those lodges were within a 200-mile drive from Waco. Now, we're not talking about El Paso or, down in the valley here.
El Paso, who made it, by the way.
We're talking about within a relatively easy drive of the Grand Communication, and some of those lodges didn't have any representation whatsoever.
Yeah, at least,
and that's a problem to me. I think that one of the things, if I were in the Grand Poobah world, the very first thing that I would be doing is I would be reaching out to those lodges and to the Worshipful Master and being, where were you? Because part of your obligations say that if you're going to be the Worshipful Master, you're to attend these things.
Or assign a proxy.
Yeah, and to have zero representation means that not only did the person who's elected to do it not show up, but there was no proxy representation either. And I think that people holding people accountable is the best way to do it. And when I say accountable, I don't mean punishment.
No.
But I'm just saying calling somebody up and saying, hey, we see that you weren't there and nobody voted on your lodge's behalf. What's going on in your lodge? and is everything okay?
Maybe it's fear of the timeline because we've kind of altered from it. I mean, we vote on resolutions on Friday. We vote on the officers on Saturday, typically. But several years ago, it kind of moved into Saturday. But just for future reference, I mean, that's how it works. If you want to be there and you need to be there, Friday and Saturday are your days. And you can leave Saturday at noon if you want to, because we've already voted.
I mean, there's definitely answers to the problem. I'm just not sure that.
Well, and if expenses is part of it, the Grand Lodge also works with the local hotels. The Hilton was like $140 a night for a 2-room for a 2-queen. Just do that on Friday night, and they've got a shuttle to the Grand Lodge. It's not cheap, but that's not crazy expensive either.
And I understand that there are definitely Masons out there that it might be cost prohibitive to attend all of the festivities of Grand Lodge, starting from Thursday in the
Wednesday
early Wednesday, all the way through Saturday, perhaps even into some events going, unofficial events going on to Sunday.
Well, Tommy's year, we had the trustee meeting that's open on Sunday, so it could be
yes,
Sunday
that's right.
too.
He had it
So
on Sunday.
I understand that these things can be a little prohibitive at
Right,
times.
Chapman.
But at the same time, we have to remember that if you're going to be the worshipful master, I think that it is one of the things that is incumbent upon us to attend the grand communication and be part of shaping the future of what Masonry in the state of Texas is going to be.
I will say that my favorite memory of Grand Lodge this year that's burned into my brain is sitting on the back of our golf cart going from the Grand Lodge building, and shout out to one of our favorite people, David Hill. He looks and he kind of like holds his hands up, and I shout, "This is what happens when you raise lodge dues." And we just had a good laugh about it. And Sean was on the back of the golf cart with me, and we all had a really good chuckle about that. Just because, well, that's what we do.
Well, the number of times that people thought we were an official Grand Lodge shuttle,
Right.
as we were shuttling ourselves.
And there were people who got a little upset that we weren't the official Grand Lodge shuttle.
Like,
or
no,
something.
this is our lodge's golf cart. We're not here to shuttle everybody.
Maybe they were also upset because they thought that we were being cruel and unusual to our golf cart.
Yeah, that golf cart
it
got a
strained a
workout.
little bit.
I didn't see anything on there about weight limits. We fit in the seats nominally.
Yeah, if I fits, I sits. Okay.
And
so.
yes, it was a lot of fun though. I mean, all things considered, I think that it was a great communication. My hat's off to the people who planned it, to the Grand Line and the officers who put everything together, all the committees who managed to get all those reports done in a semi-timely manner in most cases.
What's the new name for the Internet Committee again?
What?
The information technology.
Yes.
Not just
technology.
information
Information technology.
And it had to be amended to be that.
Yeah. It did.
I just rolled my eyes so hard I saw my brain.
The committee reports and everything seemed to go real smooth this year. So once we got into business, we were pumping through.
Well, and a lot of that, we were talking about that up in the bleachers, that if something was going to be amended, the amendments were already ready.
Oh,
And I feel like that has a lot to do with the preparation work that was done beforehand to make sure that these resolutions, if something was going to get a chance to be voted on at all, the resolutions were already amended in a way that made it quick and easy for us to get the votes through.
Except
and there wasn't a lot of
yeah.
Well, I will say, though, we did discuss the idea that if you are going to be amending the resolution, I really honestly feel like that amendment should be ready like before you get to Grand Lodge, because the problem that I'm having with the amendments is they type them up and then they put them up on the screens. But where we sit, it's really difficult for us to see the text and everything like that. And it specifically, there was one where it was like an amendment of an amendment or something like that. Do you guys remember what I was talking about? We were sitting there listening to the amendment and they wouldn't read the amendment. They kind of like said, well, here's the amendment. It's up on the screen. And it's like, we couldn't see it. And everybody was getting confused about, okay, what exactly are we amending? There was a kerfuffle with that one. So honestly, if anybody is listening to this one, if you're going to Grand Lodge and you know that you have an amendment that you want to present for the for something that we're going to be voting on, have it ready to go. And honestly, if we can somehow get copies of it, or if there would be a way that we could access the amendments on our smartphones or something like that, so that we can have the
it's being projected digitally. We could do it on an app and see it on our phone.
That's what I'm saying, is if we can do that, because if it's being projected up on those screens, again, that's great, but where we're sitting, it's really, really difficult for us to see.
You know what I want?
What?
I want the 4-sided jumbotron from
Jerry World.
Okay.
Hanging from
Actually,
the center of
The
the
one
ground.
at Dickey's is pretty nice too.
Yeah,
It's
one of
circular.
Dickies is nice. Yeah.
So we can get a 4-sided jumbotron at Grand Lodge, and then every time something's getting ready, we could do
I think
get ready to rumble, and then
$25 million. I think was what it cost.
Well, we only have the 2 screens. We have the one on the front wall.
The stag disappeared again when he backed up.
It's Evie.
It's me.
Evie.
It's that
It's
sick,
your-
you know what? It's the 5G.
Did you
sickness.
get a pacemaker?
I did.
No, the screens are kind of a little bit inconvenient, right? It's a horseshoe shaped room. They have the screen on the front wall and the screen on the back wall. So
if you're sitting on the sides of the horseshoe,
you can't really see.
you can't see really clearly either one of those.
But especially with the air conditioner vent thing.
And the
Right.
projectors have improved dramatically in the last 3 years. So at least we can see those now.
Yeah.
I mean, I
that's
understand.
Sort of.
And that's not to say that we're complaining about the projectors.
We're
It's fine.
nitpicking.
We're just saying, could there be something that, the next step? What's the next step in technology that we could do?
I mean, and if it is cost prohibitive in some way, there are ways that I think that a large television, a flat screen, could be mounted on one of the balcony edges that projects
True.
the same image that's up on the screen.
Oh
For
yeah,
those-
just hanging off the yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, when we talk about the technology here, we don't have to get a $25 million, jumbotron or
No.
anything like that. We just need to find answers that solve these really just small problems that would make the experience of going to Grand Lodge and voting on these amendments a little bit less problematic.
Well, and again, we're not complaining. What we're saying is maybe we're being a think tank here. We're kind of
We're trying to-
This is a creature comfort. Let's be honest. It is a creature comfort.
we're trying to
It's not
improve it.
essential. We just want to make it a better experience for everybody. And I know that let's just say what's really going on. There's a lot of guys in that room that don't have great vision anyway.
No,
So it
they
seems
don't.
like with the with the age of our brethren being what it is and the vision being what it is, it would not be a bad idea to have some of these things thought out in the future.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I think after today's podcast, we're going to need a name tag for Evie that says emphysema Evie with these coughs that he's
I
got
know
going
this,
on.
and the funny thing is, I'm completely over this, and I am just clearing phlegm
That's gross.
out of my lungs, and it is disgusting. So,
Remember,
welcome.
point it that way, okay?
He
Welcome.
is.
Well, I'm trying to do it back here so I don't do it into a microphone.
The
So
back of my laptop is just like
it's
Dripping snot.
Wow, it
Wow.
is drippy back there.
it's you can't do that on television. It's got the slime all over it.
yes,
Wow.
Nickelodeon slime.
I am that old.
No.
Yes.
Well, I guess that wraps the warm-up conversation.
Yep.
So,
Shout out to our brethren at at Masonic Oak, one of the lodges down there. I got this a couple of years ago when we went to Masonic Oak, so I'm using the koozie.
Is it made out of real oak?
No, it's made out of leather, I think.
I hope not.
Yeah, it's made out of the Masonic Oak.
I mean, trees, branches fall.
But
That happens.
they do. Just remember, if you go to the Masonic Oak, it's not in the park. It's across the street.
Is it Buffalo Bill?
Because
No,
the Grand Lodge owns the tree, not the park.
it's very strange. It's weird.
and it would probably be a good idea for us to just say in the kind of in the middle of our conversation between shifting topics,
Yes.
it might be a good idea for us to give a shout out to our sponsor.
Oh, to our sponsor and the person that's sitting right across from us. Yes.
All the great guys at Guy and Gal
Yeah.
at
The
B&B
Guy at
Meadery
Meadery.
here in Fort Worth, who has been a very generous sponsor of this podcast for a while now, has survived apparently the holidays. I see that you and your family are back, and the dogs survived all the trips to Canada.
Italy.
Did you go to Canada? Italy? some other
The
country.
dogs
Yeah.
didn't go to Italy.
So we're
They went somewhere.
at any rate.
Just remember, if you're in needy of meaty, we know where you can go.
And coffee.
Oh, and coffee, yes. And,
And
coffee.
so,
And there is a discount code that I don't think anyone's used yet, but FW148, you get 10% off.
Come on,
use it,
10%
please.
off, folks. Come on. Like,
I used it yesterday. Well, I used a different discount, but
Eddie hasn't had some meat in a while, and looks what happened to
Looks
him.
at what- looks what
He's got
happened.
emphysema now.
you get a disease of the lungs.
honey is the best thing for, illness, sickness.
Absolutely,
It kind of
it
is.
kind of is.
It's fermented, it makes it even better.
So please patronize our sponsor, B and Brew. They would love to have your business.
And if you
Texas
don't,
owned,
we're going to keep talking about it till you do.
exactly. Texas owned, Texas operated, Texas sourced ingredients. I
That's
mean,
right.
it
They
is
don't use any of them foreign ingredients. It's all Texas ingredients.
all Texas.
There was
Eat
that
a
one
brew.
time with the one honey that was from New Jersey. No, where did it come from? Where's it? Pennsylvania. Yeah, buckwheat honey. Yeah, that was an amazing.
But still a large
Way too expensive to keep
Masonic
up.
population in Pennsylvania, so it was probably Masonic honey anyway, so
Yeah,
whatever.
so
Hey, I love my Pennsylvania brothers because they're helping to rebuild the birthplace of the Marine Corps. So shout out to Pennsylvania Masons.
It took 21 minutes to bring the Marine out.
Yeah.
well, he's not eating a crayon yet, so there is that.
Remember,
So
blue is his favorite color.
What's
Yes.
the joke? How do you know when someone's a Marine? Don't worry, they'll tell you.
Oh, I saw a thing on the internet the other day, and instead of an MRE pouch, like for all you veterans out there, the MRE pouches, it was a CRE, crayons ready to eat, and it was packaged the same as an MRE, and I was like, man, I need to order some of those.
well,
don't
that
bother.
leads
We're
us
about to.
inexorably towards our next topic. So, as we all know, there's been a lot of talk about, at least in Texas Masonry, about dress and appearance and the standards that our Grand Master has set up for his officers, and I think that's been a welcome change. I think some of us would.
the mic.
I am talking into the mic. But within all of that, has necessarily brought up a lot of conversations about the nature of Masonry and how dress and appearance, is it part of the Masonic experience? Is it not? Should we be resisting changes to dress codes or imposition of dress codes? How does that relate to the nature of what it means and how we are called to be Masons? So
there's a 28-page guideline for Grand Lodge officers this year. This basically goes over dress code and how to dress. It's pretty cool, but the 28 pages is kind of cumbersome. But just to reiterate, it's for his officers only.
Yeah.
So we're not expected to maintain that standard.
No, the main thing that we wanted to discuss with this is because in a lot of the posts that I've seen regarding that, I've seen over and over and over again the use of the internal and not the external. And I felt it important that we, as a group here, discuss what exactly does that mean to us as Masons, and how do we apply that in our Masonic journey. So I know that Sean is rip roaring and ready to go because I can see the saliva starting to flow. So Sean, why don't you kick us off with this discussion?
Yes, I have thoughts. So the internal versus the external is something that I love. I think it's a very important part of what we are and who we are. And, we talk about that, about what are we looking for in a person who we want to make a Mason? We're looking for character. We're not looking for wealth. We're not looking for popularity, celebrity, health. We are looking for those are not the things that stand out in you to say, hey, you are a candidate for the fraternity. It's your character, and that's important. So all that being said, when we've seen it in the post recently, what we've seen is, hey, all this talk of dress codes, I thought it was, we were about the internal qualities of a man and not the external. And while that is true, We're also about being here to learn, to grow, to become better, and hold each other to higher standards. It's kind of the primary mission, is that we are here to hold each other to standards. And those standards are higher. It's the same way we've talked before on the podcast about, like, well, if you're a Mason and you get a speeding ticket and the person pulling you over is an officer, that officer shouldn't let you go. That officer should say, you know why I need to give you a ticket, because you know the standards. And we've joked about that. We've had some experiences with that. But the same is true for dress. Yes, you may not have money to purchase clothing that to fit a dress code when you are trying to become a Mason. But hopefully, either one, through the growth that happens to you in lodge, or two, through the assistance of your brothers, you can acquire what is required for whatever dress code is set by your lodge or Grand Lodge or jurisdiction or wherever that is. And that's not to say that we all have to be the same. You know, each lodge has a personality, and I think it should be left to lodges to set those rules. But as far as the Grand Lodge officers, absolutely, the Grand Master can say, you're all going to look like this. You're my officers. And that's the way it should be.
Well, considering that they're also representations of, of the Grand Master himself, especially, our DDGMs, they are the personal representative of the Grand Master. I truly believe that it is his purview to say, this is what I want you to wear when you are acting in accordance with what I'm needing you to do. I think there's no argument with that. I think a lot of the stuff that we saw online came from the misunderstanding for some reason. I don't know, but the misunderstanding that apparently that the most worshipful was now wanting to apply this to everyone in the state. It was like, no, if you would take the chance to read and not just like read the Cliff Notes versions of people who thought that they read it, you would see that this was only for, his officers and things like that.
Well, there's probably some folks out there who believe that it would probably be a good idea for some of these dress and appearance standards.
Don't die.
Excuse me.
Don't die.
There are people out there who would like for these rules to be implemented more broadly than just to the Grand Masters, chosen members, DGMs, and such. I think it is an interesting conversation, though, to have, because I think that the word that always comes back in my mind when we have these conversations is elitism. And I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with that, or that it's elitist to have a dress code of a certain way, or that it's not. What I'm saying is that the internal versus the external argument always hinges, to me, in my mind, on what people describe, how people define what elitism is and isn't. That we don't strive to be an elitist organization, by which our clothing and the amount of money that we spend, or our dues, or any of those things are what that demonstrates how good of a Mason we are. But instead, it is those external characteristics that we are cultivating in ourselves that show through as to the kind of Mason that we are, regardless of the clothing that one wears. And I think that there's a tension that is in this conversation necessarily. We have to hold these things in tension. I have gone on record. It comes as no surprise that the idea of wearing tails and like bow ties and coats and hats and gloves and things like that really is off-putting to me as a Freemason. I would not want to be in a lodge that had that as a standard, and that
at least not all the time.
It certainly, as a stated meeting standard.
Yeah.
For special events, okay, that's fine. But for the standard of just coming to a business meeting, I don't think that that's the kind of lodge that I would want to be a part of.
You don't want to
If
listen
somebody
to the
wanted to be a part of
secretary's
that?
notes in tails?
Yes, no, I'm very happy with that. Without that,
I'm still of the school of thought that I'd rather have you there than not, but I also want you to feel comfortable while you're there, so dress accordingly.
and I think that that's kind of where I think that the tension exists, because just because I feel comfortable in board shorts, flip flops, and a tank top doesn't mean that
I'm not
that is
wearing a tank top.
appropriate for. No, I'm not saying you
I had the
are,
first two though.
but I am saying that that's not appropriate for a professional business meeting of
Yeah.
any organization.
You should also be respectful of the building you're into, and that's what I was taught as a
Regardless,
kid.
I think that this is where I'm gonna lean on Sean's side here. I don't think it matters where you're meeting. If you're a Freemason and you are conducting the business of Freemasonry, there is a certain level of respect you should pay to yourself and to your brethren in the way that you present yourself.
You know,
That doesn't necessarily mean black coats and ties and top hats and gloves, but it does mean that there should be a level of professionalism that one brings to the table just out of respect for their brethren
I
and
can't
for this
help but
institution.
think about this, and Sean, I don't know if this might hit something or not, but I think about, like, as growing up as a little kid, if you were going to tell me, okay, get ready, we're going to church, dress yourself, I'm going to dress in whatever's comfortable. And as a child, I'm going to dress in whatever's easy and comfortable, and I'm going to be lazy about it. And so it was up to my mom to teach me, no, we're going to church. You don't wear a hat inside the church building. You don't wear flip-flops to church. Now, if you were going to youth group, yes, but like Sunday, we had our Sunday best dress clothes and things like that. And my mom had to teach me that. It wasn't something that was innate inside of myself. So could we not apply that situation to Masonry? We have people that are coming to Masonry that are still young at heart, may not have been taught those things, and it's up to us in the lodge to teach them. When you come to the sacred space of the lodge, and we're doing lodge business, or specifically, even more so, when we're doing degrees, this is the expectation. What do you guys think about that?
Yes. And I will even begrudgingly say that we should also be attuned to shifting cultural norms. Like I sit in the lodge and I see people dressed in, what you would call business casual. And even though their dress shoes have tennis shoe soles, I don't jump out of my seat and take their head off like the Marine in me wants to. But we adjust to cultural shifts in attire as well, while still maintaining respect, just like people do in the workplace. But Evie said it, it's a business meeting. Stated meeting is a business meeting and should be treated like a business. And if you're going to go do business, you dress appropriately for that business. So business casual should be the minimum, I think, because it's business. If it's a different lodge thing, like, we as a lodge, we meet every Monday, every week. Those other Mondays that aren't the business meeting, hey, that's not the same thing.
Jeans, tennis shoes, t-shirt.
Yeah. But if you're going to open lodge officially, I think that sets a little bit of a standard.
Yeah.
So if we're coming to fellowship, hey, whatever. If you're coming to open lodge for a floor school or a proficiency, that kicks the game up. We're opening lodge. The opening and closing ritual require respect and solemnity. So that changes the dress code. And then the business meeting changes it again. It has both the opening and the business. So it's more. And then if it's a black tie gala, it's a black tie gala. If we say tails for some event, say, for example, you're the Grand Master and you want your officer installation in tails. So be it. That's what you said.
I can't help but feel like part of what maybe we're experiencing with the dress code, or with people having problems with dress, I can't help but feel that there is some connection between that and kind of in the late 90s, early 2000s, specifically in like the evangelical world and stuff like that. There was this like come as you are type feel to church.
Yeah.
And that, if I remember the way that it kind of worked, is it came out of the whole idea that they saw that people weren't coming to church, and they were trying to address that. So the whole come as you are was a way for people to feel comfortable, so that more people would feel, open to like attend church and stuff. So, Evie, you coming from, kind of a church background and things like that.
Yeah.
Can you see a correlation between that? Maybe that somehow bled into Masonry, or
So I see many of the same reasons driving that conversation. We all know that we need more members in Freemasonry. I mean, that's just
or even the people that are members just
we
come.
want more Freemasonry out there.
Need is a strong word.
I'm using the word need. The word need might be doing a lot of work there, but what I am saying though is that it would not be a bad thing for there to be more Masons that are involved and active in Texas Masonry.
Maybe.
But I think that we've also, I know I have personally, and Sean and I went together to a lodge that when they were discussing resolutions a couple of years ago, one of the topics that was on the voting block was whether or not the cipher can be used to help instruct people in the work.
What cipher are you talking about?
The one that you're not supposed to know
I
about.
have no idea what you're talking about.
That's
And
published
so-
by the Grand Lodge of Texas.
And it came out.
That gets revenue from it.
Right. So, but the conversation was in this particular lodge that was not 148 was a conversation by significantly older men talking about how the younger generation doesn't want to go through and do the work that goes into being a Freemason. That they want the easy way. They want the blue lightning. They want the master mason in a day kind of thing. And that was their perspective. And you saw some of these other gentlemen in the room kind of nodding along with them. And meanwhile, my head is about to explode, as is Sean's, because we know the truth. That the problem is not how difficult it is to be a Freemason. The obstacle to being a good Freemason is not what you're dressed like. The obstacle that I think that we need to be looking at is that we've created the come as you are environment for Freemasonry, which devalues the Masonic experience.
And I know
I feel
exactly
like I
what
should
you're
say hallelujah. Hallelujah.
I know
But
exactly what you're talking about. The whole
it's-
idea of older generations, kind of speaking for the younger generation, while the
Well,
younger generation's
and
going, I don't want
assuming-
that at all.
Right. And assuming that you understand what the younger generation wants.
That
I
they want it
don't
easier.
want a come as you are Masonic experience. That is the opposite. Whenever I say that dress codes kind of are, I'm always a little suspicious. They're a little red flag to me. But I certainly don't want a come as you are lodge, especially when it comes to business meetings and events. I want the expectation that we should pay the respect to one another of dressing a little bit more elevated. Do I think that as I've said, do I want black tie and top hats and gloves? Absolutely not. I think the answer is somewhere in between. The average human being, the average man in America would probably do better if they had the kind of dress code that I think that 148 kind of works with.
Yeah.
It's business casual, maybe even a little bit more business, not so casual, I think.
So
we often wear well jackets and button
Yeah,
downs.
just clarify it. Cowboy boots, jeans, and a jacket
Yeah.
is totally fine except for degree work.
Yes.
Texas formal, because we're in Texas.
Fort Worth formal.
Fort Worth formal. Starched blue jeans count as dress slacks. You know, if
Yeah.
you have clean boots, shine boots, starched blue jeans, and a blazer,
And a button down.
that's a suit. That's a business suit in Fort Worth, Texas, and that's perfectly acceptable.
And that works for a lot of rural lodges as well.
I don't have a problem with that. And even even though I hate wearing ties because I have a giant neck that's impossible to find
Giant neck
shirts
club?
for.
Yeah, we
Giant
are.
neck club.
21-inch
I
neck club.
hate wearing ties because they're just awful. But even if that dress code did include a tie, I would be totally okay with it.
Yeah.
I think that elevates the expectation. I know that there are some of our younger members of 148 that need that level of when they show up in jeans and a t-shirt to lodge. I'm the first person to go up there and be like, "Hey, slob, how you doing?"
Yeah.
And I say that it sounds like I'm being mean when I say that, but they know it's in good fun and we're giving each other a little
Right.
ribbing.
Shorts and open toe shoes are mine. Kind of
There's just a certain amount of decorum
as I'm wearing right now.
and respect that I think is important to inculcate. Now, and in other organizations that might not be the case. I don't think a come as you are environment is what we should be.
I want to touch on that briefly too, because a lot of the things, we've talked on our podcast before about historically the Mason law, before public schools, before the experiment of public education, the lodge was the place where a man went to meet the people and begin his education process outside of his basic arithmetic for counting the sheep and writing, ledgers for inventory. They went to the Mason Lodge to begin their further education before moving on to some form of secondary education later. That being the case, I can relate to my time in the Marine Corps. You wouldn't believe how many young men came in front of me. They had never tied a tie. And so it's the same here. If we get young men, we want young men to join the fraternity, right? We've said that. It's going to be an expectation that part of that is going to be our ability to educate them in how to dress that way. And that's what I was talking about earlier with, we hold each other. Once you are a Mason, we hold each other to higher standards. But part of that is the education process of how to do that. How do you dress this way? What looks good? We've had a whole lodge retreat class that I gave about what is okay. You don't wear brown belts with black dress shoes. Simple stuff. White socks with black slacks and black shoes. Even if the Mormons are doing it on their bicycles, it's not okay.
Right. Well, and I think the other thing we're talking about here, and I heard this the other day, was that in the past 80, 100 years, here, specifically maybe in the United States or even in the West, there has been the loss of the transition from boyhood to manhood. There was always kind of that marked rite of passage, and that there was that loss of the rite of passage. Maybe for me, that rite of passage was getting my first car. But now we even have a generation where they're not wanting cars. The reason I bring that up is because the guy that I was listening to mentioned the fact that we have, it used to be that manhood was something that was passed down from men to boys. Like that's how that was. So with the loss of what we're talking about, this rite of passage, knowing these types of dress, that kind of thing that kind of mark you into maturity, we now have a generation or maybe two generations where manhood wasn't necessarily passed down to the boys. So we have boys bestowing this quasi-manhood on other boys. So it's a breakdown. So we're seeing people that don't know how to dress as a man should dress.
That's a whole nother episode too, because
right.
of the
well, what I'm saying
talking about single moms and
Well, top that with the pandemic, we've got guys that are joining now that spent 2 years of their life locked in a house. They couldn't go to school when they're 18.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is this where we as Masons and as an organization step into kind of take up that mantle again of passing on the right of manhood, from boyhood. And part of that is making sure that the members of our organization know, as a man, this is what should be expected of you in dress.
I think that's one of the primary benefits that we have we don't advertise, but if we were to advertise, that's our advertising tool. As we're the place where men can come and have that initiatic rite of passage that doesn't exist in Western society any longer, and make that transition from boyhood, youth, adolescence into manhood.
And I think those are all really fine points. There also, I think, comes a point, though, where certain organizations like ours that are steeped in history, that are steeped in a breadth of experiences, where we just have to kind of draw a line in the sand and say some traditions are worth preserving, and having a dress and appearance standard doesn't mean that it has to be black coat and tails and a bow tie, but it does mean that we hold the same. When we look up at I'm always in awe when I walk into the 148 lodge room and I see all the faces up on the wall of the past masters from decades prior. And the one thing that all of those people have in common is that they all look professional.
Mutton chops.
Right, mutton chops.
The tie is on almost every photo, I think.
There's a tie in almost every single photo, with a couple of exceptions. Every one of those men up on the wall has a coat on, for sure, a button-down shirt of some sort. They are in various kinds of grooming standards. There are some of the guys from the 70s that you can tell they're from the 70s. But for the most part, if you were to take those photos down, a large percentage of them, you would not be able to tell what century they're from by just looking at them, because they are timeless. They are gentlemen from the ages,
Even 1870s.
Yes, there are some of those photos that are really old that you would have a hard time telling whether or not that man was from today, from 100 years ago, or from 50 years ago.
If you saw him in person.
If you took away some of the like the fuzziness.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that sets Freemasonry apart, that kind of we should always stick to, is that there are traditions that we should never let go of. There are some traditions that need to change, and that we need to be mindful that need to change.
Did anybody just want to start singing Fiddler on the Roof? I did.
Tradition.
I was just thinking about
On
Prince
the other
Hall,
hand, there are some
recognize
traditions that we should never let go of, and that we should hold fast to. And I think that having an appearance standard is one of those things, and it doesn't compromise the internal qualities. Like being mindful of an external perception does not sacrifice the internal qualities that initially made someone the kind of person that we wanted to be a Mason in the first place.
Brandy started to say something about Prince Hall. Say that.
Oh, just changing traditions, recognizing Prince Hall. We're doing it everywhere. We're better for it.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Prince Hall's dress code, because that's one of the
Oh,
things
yes.
that I appreciate about Prince Hall, is that they're pretty hardcore about it, more than I would be, but I can still appreciate that most of the Prince Hall jurisdictions are pretty hardcore about the dress code, and I like it. It's a good thing.
You'll get a lot sterner talking to in with their lodges about being
Well,
dressed right than ours.
I think that's a hallmark of them separating themselves from society at large. Is knowing that if I go to a Prince Hall, I've heard about the things of where it is, white tie, black coat. I mean, they're always in tuxedos, things like that. And I think that's a hallmark of them trying to separate themselves and say, this is how we are different from society at large, because that's what we're all looking for as well.
I was talking to one of the brothers from New Day Prince Hall Lodge here in the Metroplex, and he mentioned too that that's also one of the ways that they can set themselves apart from the historical Black colleges and the Black fraternities, because those are all good organizations, right? You have the Black fraternities at the HBCs, and those are all fantastic things. But the Prince Hall Masons wanted to be a step above, a step apart, from that, and that's another one of the ways that they can do that too.
Now, I think something that would be important for us to not leave out of this conversation, we've talked about this before, is if our viewing public is seeing this and going, well, what about those times where we know that there's a brother that really needs to come to lodge because he hasn't been there for a while, but he had a really busy day at work. What about do we tell him not to come, or those types of things? Sean, I know that you had a couple of suggestions on that one. What did you come up with?
None of our rules should be to the point where we're impaling people at the stake for not being able to accomplish it. I mean, if you're stuck at work and you need to come to lodge in that attire, come on, we're all brothers. If it's a true need, we'll understand, and you'll know. And then, maybe you do some things to prepare time management better next time. Take your suit with you in the car in the morning. We're meeting, we know what day our business meeting is. It's the same every month. So on that Monday morning, you throw your suit in the car, or you leave it at the temple. Leave it in our closet. We have a closet for that.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't do that.
And there's a co-rec outside too.
Yeah. But there's options. It's all about time management. Again, one of the other skills that we're trying to teach people to take you from boyhood to manhood is time management, respect, attire, all these simple lessons that have been lost on Western culture.
I'm going to be the the fly in the pudding about this.
Be that guy.
Those sorts of excuses really irritate me.
Yeah.
This whole the one man who was at work and couldn't make it to lodge or couldn't go make it home to change clothes and show up, whatever. That is such a red herring in this conversation, and it's such an irritating red herring because we all know this. This is not something that ever has to be discussed. Exceptions should not be the rule.
Right.
And
No.
we all know that we would rather have you at lodge than not have you at lodge, even if that means that you're coming in greasy pants and from having worked in the oil field or having just come from changing a plumbing problem at home and you lost track of time. We all get it. We all run into these things. The problem isn't the exception that question implies. The questioner who brings that sort of question up is implying, can we just change the standard so that everybody feels good about wearing, flip-flops and tank tops to lodge?
As you are.
And the answer is absolutely not. If you come once and you're dressed like that, I'm gonna give you a pass. And I think Brandy would too. Any of us here as past masters would absolutely come to lodge. We want you here more than we don't. If every single time you show up, you have an excuse as to why you're not dressed to at least a minimum standard, then that's not an exception. You are having problems with time management. You are having problems with self-control. You are having other issues that are going on. And that is exactly what these rules are designed to help train you to control for.
Well, and if you're seeing a lot of this at your lodge, if you're seeing a lot of guys that are saying, well, I just got off of work and, I'm this, I want to be at lodge, but I'm dressed like this or something like that. If you're seeing a lot of that, maybe that is also because your lodge is not taking the time to, one, guard the West Gate, two, make sure that people that are coming into the lodge understand our stated meetings are on this particular day at this particular time. If your job is going to be a problem for that one, then maybe our lodge isn't the best fit. Why don't you go and we know some lodges that meet on Saturday. We know daylight lodges that you can go to.
Or bring your clothes.
Yeah.
That is not a huge ask.
Well, that's
bring a change of clothes. I've done it before whenever I've had to work. And I know that I'm going to have meetings on Monday that run me a little close to getting to lodge at the right time. We have degree work, and at 148, we know that we at 148 wear all black for our degree if you're on the degree team. I don't wear all black to work, but whenever I came to the lodge, I changed clothes and I was wearing all black because I made the plans to be there and the commitment to be there. It's not that big of an ask.
It's like the thing that you've heard, though, about white gloves. One of the reasons that Masonry has the white glove thing is those white gloves cover both the soft hands of the aristocrat and the oily, dirty fingernails of the laborer and equalize us. So we put on our suit and our white gloves and our pristine white aprons, and we are all Masons regardless of our status. And it's the same with a suit, and it's not hard. We found the other day, we were talking about an event that we're going to have in the future, and we're talking about making it white tie because of Most Worshipful Grandmaster. A couple of guys found a website where you can get a tailed tux for like $160. It's not even that much money. It's cheap. A few quick, a year of not stopping at Quick Trip for a Coke and a whatever. And you can buy
this is also a service that your lodge can do to its members. There are plenty of companies out there that sell tuxedos and suits and things in bulk. You find out, hey, I want to have them come to the lodge. Guys, why don't you come up here on this day? You can get your measurements. This is how much the pieces are going to be. That is a service that as a lodge we can provide to our members as well.
Yeah.
Think outside the box.
Yeah.
And I think the ultimate point that we're kind of landing on here is that this should not be a conversation that I think that is going on over and over and over again. Every time we open up Texas Freemasons, we should not be having to recapitulate the argument about is it the internal or is it the external.
Right.
These are not two things that are disparate that can't be resolved. Yes, the internal qualifications make us Masons. That is what ultimately makes us a Mason. But what is inside you should ultimately manifest itself in you being a better person on the outside. Having the best of intentions and the best of faith tradition inside of you does not mean that you don't still have calling to your faith tradition to go out in this world and be a better person and to do things in this world that make the world better.
Ultimately, if you come into Freemasonry and 10 years later, you are the same person that came into Freemasonry 10 years ago, then Masonry may not necessarily be working for you.
Well, and if the internal is the same as it was 10 years ago, then I think that we need to have conversations about what's going on your internals.
Yeah.
Because this is a transformative craft. And if that transformation does not include something that exudes outwards, that ripples outwardly, that demonstrates that you are a different person than you were before you were raised to the sublime degree of a Master Mason. If there is not some action in your life, in the religious world we call it the fruits, but whatever we call it, if there is not something that has not changed your behavior outwardly, then I question whether or not you had what it took inwardly to begin with. And I'm not saying that clothing is necessarily the end all and be all of that, but it is going to be a manifestation of respect. It is one of the ways in which we can demonstrate that we show respect to other people around us.
We're right at an hour.
Fantastic. Well,
it's a good place to stop anyway.
That's a really great kind of stopping place. So,
All right. Sorry to
brothers,
kill the mood.
That's okay. So, brothers, with that, we've had a great episode. We've once again saying thanks to our great sponsor, B&Brew, for everything that they do to support the Fort Worth 148 podcast and Freemasonry in the state of Texas in general. Please patronize their business. Get that discount code for 10% off.
FW148.
And take advantage of that. And of course, as always, we welcome your comments, your questions, your concerns. Like, subscribe, do all the things. Believe it or not, that does help out the algorithm in getting the word about the Fort Worth 148 podcast out longer.
Hit the bell.
Hit the bell.
We're on
Subscribe. All
We're on
the
the
things.
YouTubes.
We are on
the
YouTube.
YouTubes.
We are so if you haven't checked us out on YouTube, please do so. Like and subscribe there. Regardless of where you're consuming us from, make sure that you are leaving comments. Tell us what you think of us. Tell us how we're wrong. Tell us how Sean is wrong. That is an important thing that we want to hear.
Make fun of my scar.
You can't see it. You really can't see it.
I know, it's
You
amazing.
really can't. I had even forgotten that you had a scar. So there's that. So gentlemen, with that, I guess we will wrap up this episode. Thanks again for being part of this. And my name is Evie Kirkendall. I'm signing off.
Brandy Patton signing off.
This is Cody Cox signing off.
Sean DeBon signing off.